Tonight's missile attack by the Iranians against two military bases in Iraq that house American troops is the latest in a heightened crisis between the two countries, a relationship that came crashing down nearly 4 decades ago when 52 American diplomats and civilians were held hostage in the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. Just hours ago, Iran firing missiles at bases in Iraq hosting U.S. troops. As of now, there are no reports of American casualties, but the strike has the world on edge. Iran's attack comes after days of public mourning. A sea of Iranians filling the streets of Tehran, grieving General Qasem Soleimani, killed by a U.S. drone strike last week. His funeral, one of the biggest in decades, so packed it proved deadly. As captured on cell phone video, a human stampede left 56 dead and more than 200 injured.
Trump made a big mistake. He killed our hero.
Soleimani's death and the way it was carried out, a game changer for Iran and the U.S. Iran hails Soleimani a hero. The Trump administration calls him a terrorist, blaming him for the killings of hundreds of U.S. troops.
Soleimani made the death of innocent people his sick passion, contributing to terrorist plots as far away as New Delhi and London.
The general was in charge of the nation's elite military forces and had been a public source of pride, not just in Iran, but across the Middle East. Some seen here burning the U.S. flag, others joining a rallying crowd.
We will have very hard revenge of Mr. Trump.
Revenge must happen, and it is certain.
My colleague Martha Raddatz, one of the few Western journalists first allowed in the country.
What is your message to America?
I'm saying we love Americans, but look at your president.
Any message for Donald Trump?
He should stop going on this path. Will not help him. Stop listening to arrogant, ignorant people.
Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif this morning, before the strike, shared this foreboding message.
Iran is a very patient country. We will take our action after necessary deliberation, but I'm sure that it will be taken at the time of our choosing, not at the time of the United States choosing.
Soleimani, a critic of the U.S., taunted President Trump in a speech in 2018, saying in part, "Let me tell you, Mr. Trump the gambler, know that we are near you in places that don't come to your mind."
Soleimani was plotting imminent and sinister attacks on American diplomats and military personnel, but we caught him in the act and terminated him.
But there are questions about the administration's initial justification for the attack, just how imminent those threats were.
Are you concerned that a strong response from Iran will end in an all-out war?
Well, it depends on the United States. The United States took an act of war against Iran. It will have to be prepared for the consequences. Then it will have to decide whether it wants to get itself into a quagmire or whether it wants to stop.
America's contentious history with Iran goes back decades, back to 1953 when the U.S. installed the Shah in order to protect oil interests. After 25 years in 1979, the mass demonstrations filled the streets and forced the Shah into exile. Then, just months later,
the U.S. Embassy in Tehran has been invaded and occupied by Iranian students,
holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days before they were released in 1981. The relationship over the next few decades would remain fractured.
If, in fact,
fast forward to 2013, President Barack Obama's administration started taking small but controversial steps to bridge decades of hostilities, including a one-on-one conversation with Iran's then newly elected president, Rouhani. As the latest round of heightened crisis began in 2018 after President Trump dismantled the Iran nuclear deal.
This was a horrible, one-sided deal.
In 2015, the U.S., along with the group of world powers, brokered the deal with Iran to end its nuclear program. That momentary thaw in tension is now in the past. Hostilities continue to escalate after a series of Iranian provocations this past summer, including the downing of an American drone. Then, in late December, An American contractor was killed in a rocket attack in Iraq. The U.S. blamed an Iranian-backed militia and responded with airstrikes that killed at least 24 people. On New Year's Eve, a huge crowd of protesters stormed the U.S. Embassy compound in Baghdad, breaching the highly fortified perimeter. 2 days later, General Soleimani was killed in that U.S. drone attack. But tonight, after Iran's retaliation against U.S. military in Iraq, what happens next is unknown.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.